We spoke before about older adults often need less energy or calories, if you will, because they're not moving as much. And the main way that we expend calories is through exercise, but also having more muscle in our body. So our body uses energy, right? And the more muscle we have in our body, the more energy we actually use just to walk around, etc. And then exercise on top of it, right? So if we know that older adults as they age have less muscle because they're moving less. So a key thing, first off, to healthy eating is to move more and to also do exercise, because that will help your appetite, will also help you to eat more calories then, right? You're allowed more calories if you can burn them off in exercise. So that's an important feature, that you need to think about nutrition and exercise together when it comes to healthy eating for older adults. Second, we recognize that older adults actually need 50% more protein than younger adults do. So after the age of about 60, 65 or so, our body doesn't actually lay down the protein we eat into our muscles as efficiently as it did when we were younger. So this means we actually need to eat more protein to keep the muscle we have. And so a lot of older adults don't realize that. And then they don't realize it has to be what we call high biological value protein. So that means it has all the right essential amino acids, there's 9 of them, 9 essential amino acids in the right proportions in a serving of the food, okay? And so high biological value proteins, lean meats, poultry, fish, right top, dairy products as well, soy products, tofu, okay? Those have all the essential amino acids in the right proportions. And so when we talk about eating protein, those are the foods we should be eating, all right? Grain products like a quinoa, for example, also have good source of protein, but when you look at the amount of how much you would have to eat a quinoa to get 20 grams of protein, it's certainly a higher amount. And when you have a higher amount, then you have more calories again. So the most efficient protein comes from these animal-based products. So there's benefits to having both animal-based and plant-based proteins in your diet. I would certainly encourage a mix of that, and certainly lean protein sources. So if people don't want to eat red meat, that's fine. You can get high biological value protein from poultry, from fish, from dairy, from soy, right? But if you're a total vegan, it's very challenging to get enough protein in your diet at the high biological value. You have to do a lot of complementary mixing of foods to make sure you have that, which vegans do, and they know how to do well. But it's important to get enough protein in your diet still at that, with that lifestyle or that eating style. So plant-based proteins have a lot of benefits. They have fiber, right? They have some phytochemicals. And here we're talking things like legumes, peas, beans, lentils, tofu again here would be in that mixture. And then some high quality grains, quinoa would be an example. Those have fiber, phytochemicals that are not in animal-based products, okay? So this is why I say a mix of the two is important. The animal-based products give that efficient protein source, less calories, more protein per gram, but also some key vitamins, B12, for example. Vitamin D is often in eggs and other fish, for example, fish oils, and also calcium. We find those, again, more commonly in some of those animal-based products. So mix, that's the first key thing that we should be thinking about. Secondly, we need to think about vitamin D and calcium. And so the guidelines actually around osteoporosis just came out recently. And they talk about a food-based approach to trying to get enough calcium and vitamin D in our diet. When you get older, again, we need more calcium to keep the bone we have. Is it an issue of the absorption, the way it's used in the body? We're not exactly sure, but we do know that you need a higher amount of calcium, 1,200 milligrams. If you're a woman over the age of 50 and a man over the age of 70, you need 1,200 milligrams. Getting that through your diet is the best approach. And those sources, again, some legumes are very high. Beans can be very high in calcium as well. You have to cook them right as well. Some green vegetables are very high in calcium. But again, your milk products, soy beverage, would be actually fortified with calcium. Vitamin D, we need to help calcium put into our bones. And that, again, we know from research that people who are older, we make vitamin D from the sun in our skin, goes through the kidney and back to the liver and becomes vitamin D. That capacity changes with age. As its skin changes, liver changes, kidney changes, our ability to make vitamin D and from the sun is less. Secondly, we're not out in the sun as much anymore, right? Or we're using sunscreen to avoid sun exposure. So those two things together, and we live in a northern clime where we already have low sun exposure much of the year, means we need to think about potentially supplementing vitamin D. And 400 international units is what we typically would suggest for a person. Of course, follow your doctor's advice. If you have osteoporosis or osteopenia, they might actually recommend a higher dose of vitamin D. But it's very hard to get vitamin D, the amount we need as we age, in our diet alone, because there's very few foods that have it. Cod liver oil, not many people want to take a teaspoon of cod liver oil a day. Fatty fishes, right? Cold water fishes will have vitamin D, as well as eggs, as I said. And there's some foods that are fortified as well with vitamin D. So those would be the three key things I want to emphasize with people is get enough protein, lean protein sources, a mix of protein, get enough calcium, preferably from food-based sources. And there's some calcium calculators that you can do on the Osteoporosis website to find out how much calcium you're eating. And make sure you're getting enough vitamin D, either through fortified food sources like, again, soy beverage or cow's milk. They're fortified with vitamin D, or taking a vitamin supplement that has vitamin D in it.
Wow, that's very informative. Yeah, I learned a lot from you. So how do you help people make behavior change?
That's tricky, right? And so this gets back to what I was speaking about earlier, is I actually have created a tool called Screen. It's meant to identify nutrition risk in older adults. Excuse me. And I think primary care providers, people that are in the community that are seeing older adults are at a prime place to identify if people have nutrition problems. And then once they do have those nutrition problems, making sure they see the right healthcare professional. So in this case, a dietitian. That's hard to do though. A lot of people don't have access to a dietitian. So we've created resources actually that are available on my Screen website around healthy eating for older adults. You can certainly make sure you get the website for that as well. And that can help people to identify how they can improve their diet. But seeing a dietitian if you can, talking to a nurse practitioner who's knowledgeable or a physician who's knowledgeable about diet as well would be important. And this nutrition risk screening tool that I developed helps that clinicians see where their challenges may be. What we see often as people age, other things become a priority for them, right? They might have challenges when it comes to grocery shopping or cooking, and that then leads to changed eating behaviors, right? That are not so healthful, like eating out of the pantry, lots of carbohydrates rather than cooking a meal. So we identify those challenges, then we can put into place some of those supports for people. So it's not just about behavior change, Angela, it's about changing the opportunity around the person so they can eat as well as they can.
Wow, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
In the long-term care, seniors living portion of the world and where people live, I'm working on the mealtime experience specifically and how we can promote that mealtime experience for older adults living in that setting. And so the program is called Choice Plus, and we're actually just trying to get a grant funded at this point to have several homes across the country involved in training to help them make improvements in their dining so that older adults who are in that environment will have a nice mealtime experience. Team members will have a great mealtime experience. We hope that will actually lead to, again, better social connectivity for the older adult and the team members, as well as a more calm, relaxed dining environment that is really more of an activity than a task to be done. So that's one key thing we're working on. The second is the area around older adults living with dementia in the community, and I have three key areas. One is around exercise, nutrition, and well-being. That's the Delight program that we're running right now. We're hoping to see that program grow in different ways with different communities. Laura Middleton will be talking about this as well, but the idea that we're trying to talk to different groups like an Asian community. What would Delight look for this group, right?
Yeah.
It would be different. Different foods, for example, different views of what exercise should be. In a rural population, how can we adapt the program so it can actually be used virtually by people anywhere, right? And so it's not limited to being in a place. So we're hoping to make those adaptations to Delight so it can be actually rolled out wherever. Cooking together, we talked a little bit about already, the idea of having persons with dementia and youth get together and work together on cooking something to build that rapport and that social connectivity, but also exchange skills, right, in terms of cooking and having that interaction. And then the third one around the idea of nutrition risk for older adults living with dementia and their caregivers in the community. How can we actually support them, identify them early so that they get supports from our primary caregivers? So we're right now recruiting for that population, for that study as well. Where is that going to go in the future? Well, I would hope to see, starting with the first one we just ended with, I would hope to see that we have all the primary care providers and specialist services that look at older adults who have, they're looking to see if they have dementia or have mild cognitive impairment, diagnosing them. They would also do this nutrition risk screening because we know this population is underserved with respect to nutrition.
Yeah, agree.
And they have significant challenges that no one's identifying. Swallowing problems, eating challenges, challenges when they're trying to make food for the individual that might have dementia, or on the flip side, the person with dementia trying to, if they're living alone, organize that food and bring it into their homes through eating well, right? So we know we have these challenges, and nutrition risk screening is again the way to identify those individuals that have that challenge. So I'm hoping in the future to see that tool used in primary care services across the country and beyond perhaps as well. Thinking about the Cooking Together program, I'd love to see that program adapted and used in senior centers, for example. So bringing youth together, bringing persons with dementia together, working together with food, which is a natural way to connect, but also as a way to build those relationships, to decrease stigma, right? To get rid of or try to minimize social isolation for both groups, quite frankly, right? Can you imagine a young person who might be at university from a different country who doesn't know really how to cook? They could actually, in this cooking program, learn a bit from an older adult with dementia about how to make simple recipes, right? They could work on that together and build new relationships. I'd love to see that in senior centers across the country, right? We have many senior centers where that would be a really good program. And then the last program with Delight in the community, as I said, we'd love to see that program grow and expand as a way to see older adults living with dementia in the community or memory challenges as a way to stay well. This is not a life sentence, right, having dementia. You live it one day at a time, and if you stay healthy in your body and in your mind, that really help the journey of living with dementia. And so we strongly believe, Karen McKinney and Laura and I, that this program can be vital to the well-being of people living with dementia and their care partners. For my Choice Plus program that's right now in long-term care, in seniors living environments, I'd love to see that actually come outside of that setting. The principles around trying to make mealtime as the activity for people living with dementia in the community that actually came from research I did in the community about almost 20 years ago now, I guess. We talked to family members and persons living with dementia in the community for 6 years, and they told us what was meaningful about meal times to them, not the food. We didn't want to talk about food. We knew it was important anyway. We want to talk about the importance of the mealtime. It was about being connected, honoring who they were as individuals, and seeing it as a way to adapt to the evolving life. And so we'd love to bring that knowledge back out from the Choice Plus program, which developed from that knowledge, back into the community setting. So you can imagine families living with dementia again, or even, quite frankly, older adults in general and frail older adults in the community. Remembering that meal times actually go beyond just food. It's really about enriching everything, our soul, our psychology, everything, right? And so can we bring meal times back as a way to be connected, as a way to stay connected, as a way of helping us adapt? I think many of our families have gotten away from that shared meal. And when we think about, again, an older adult living alone, they don't have those opportunities, right?
It's the only time they have get together.
Exactly. So can families actually remember, hey, this is actually something important. So rather than just dropping off food from mom or dad, maybe actually inviting mom and dad to our home to be part of that meal. Or sitting with them to eat that meal rather than just leaving it at the doorstep sort of thing. So remembering the social connectivity around food, how incredibly important that is, because it helps everything about us, right? Our mind, our brain, our soul.
Yeah, oh, wow. The mealtime is not only about nutrition, it's about the enjoyable experience.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. Thank you, and good luck to your future research. Thank you for joining us today.